Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel. May 8th, 2018.
The Kuhner Report is powered by Kelly Financial Services. Cleaning up your financial bull. Get the peace of mind that you deserve at Kelly Financial Services.
Okay, my friends, unless everybody is lying, it now is practically official. Trump will be announcing it any minute now. The United States will now pull out of the Iran nuclear deal negotiated by Obama, Jean-Francois Kerry, France, Great Britain, and Germany in 2015. This is an absolutely momentous decision. This is what we're hearing now from congressional leaders, that Trump briefed them, and according to them, he's told Congress he is going to pull out. He is going to be addressing the country. We're going to have audio from that. You don't have to go anywhere else. But without question now, this is going to have a major, major impact across the Middle East, across Europe, across America, and across the world. And a couple of points, and then I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868. So, the president now is going to be announcing that he is fully withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal. It appears that our European partners want to stay in the deal. So what that means is that France, Great Britain, Germany, essentially the Europeans, are going to continue to economically engage with the mullahs. They will not participate in sanctions against the Iranian regime. However, Trump says we are pulling out. Not only are we pulling out, but he wants to reimpose the economic sanctions that were lifted after the Iran nuclear deal was signed several years ago. And not only will he reimpose American sanctions, he says he wants to even toughen up those sanctions. So make them even tougher and harsher than they were in 2015. Essentially, America, it now appears, is going to go it alone in terms of pulling out of the nuclear deal. Now, they were working behind the scenes, American negotiators. Trump wanted to fix the deal, along with European negotiators. It appears that one of the fundamental stumbling blocks, there were several, but the big one was, I don't want to get into the weeds, but this is a key part, this is a key component. The Iran nuclear deal, as it was negotiated by Obama and Jean-Francois Kerry, had what is called a sunset clause, meaning that the deal would essentially expire in 2025, 7 years from today. And for Trump, that was he thought that was one of the really bad aspects of the deal. Why? Because Iran preserved a lot of its nuclear weapons program, basically just put them on ice. But in 7 years, and 7 years is nothing, it goes by very fast, that would then provide Iran with the path to the bomb. And so Trump said, no, we want something permanent. In other words, we'll keep the deal. You can keep the deal. You can keep trading with us, trading with the Europeans, have economic engagement. However, we don't want any sunset clauses. We don't want this thing to end in 2025, and then you guys can restart your nuclear weapons program on a dime. We want this to either be extended for another 20, 30, 40 years, or permanently into the future. Of course, the mullahs said absolutely no way. The deal says 2025 is when the deal ends. The sunset clause kicks in. The deal is the deal is the deal. So that was a fundamental stumbling block as far as Trump was concerned. Furthermore, the other reason why Trump thought it was a bad deal and why people around him said get out of the deal is the one thing the nuclear deal did not do is it said nothing and did nothing about Iran's ballistic missile program. And so over the last couple of years, they have been expanding their ballistic missiles, the capability of their ballistic missiles. They now have short and medium range, intermediate range ballistic missiles that can obviously hit Jerusalem, hit Tel Aviv, hit Riyadh, hit almost any city in the Middle East, which is why many of Iran's neighbors are very nervous, like Saudi Arabia, like the Gulf states, and like Israel. They also now have the capability to hit Paris, to hit London, and to hit Berlin. They are trying in the long term to obviously develop long-range ballistic missiles that could hit Moscow, could hit Beijing, and of course could hit the United States of America, Boston, New York, Washington, Chicago, you name it. And so Trump argued, no. I don't want them to be able to just rev up a nuclear bomb, strap it upon a warhead, strap the warhead upon a missile, forgive me, and then have the capability to blackmail the United States a la North Korea. And so because it didn't cover ballistic missiles, and because of that fundamental stumbling block over the sunset clause, Trump is now saying, I'm out, the United States is out, it's a bad deal. Now, a couple of points, and then I want to hear from you. 617-266-6868 is the number. So what that means in plain English is America is now going to automatically reimpose sanctions on Iran, and he wants to even bolster those sanctions, as he said. We are going to be now split off from our European allies. They are going to stay in the deal. The Iranians, led by the supreme leader Ayatollah Khamenei, have now vowed that this will lead to major consequences in Iranian-American relations. They say that there will be consequences, quote unquote. What those consequences are, we don't know. It could be bluff, it could be bluster, or God knows what it may lead to. I think what is clear is this. President Trump, whatever you're opposed to this decision or you favor this decision, President Trump campaigned on ending or pulling out of the deal. He ran explicitly as an opponent of the deal, and he vowed once he became president, he would tear up the deal. It was one of the key campaign promises that he made. Hillary Clinton ran on preserving, on keeping the deal. So the American electorate, I think, voted on this. Now, I know there are many other issues, of course, but this was a key issue. You want the deal, you vote for Hillary. You don't want the deal, you want to pull out of the deal, you vote for Trump. So I think, to be fair, he clearly has some popular legitimacy to his decision that he's about to make. Secondly, there's no question in my mind. This was a bad deal. Now, I'm going to have Pat Buchanan on tomorrow at 1:05. He thinks it's a mistake for us to pull out of the deal. We're going to have Colonel Douglas McGregor on Thursday. He's going to argue the same thing. It's a mistake to pull out of the deal. I think no matter what, it's a bad deal. It gave the Iranian mullahs over $100 billion, $1.8 billion in cash. We gave them the means through this deal to purchase their ballistic missiles, to bolster their massive military, and then to be able to use that money to fund, arm, and supply pro-Iranian terrorist militias all across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and the Middle East. So what this deal did was clearly empower the mullahs of Iran. That, to me, is point number one. Point number two, it guaranteed Iran in 7 years, the sunset clause, a path to the bomb. So I think there's no getting around it. The Iranians got everything, and we got almost nothing. And that's why I think in the end, the president, I believe, had no choice but to pull out of this deal. Now, the problem is this. Israel and Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states are now clearly getting ready for potential military and airstrikes on Iran. In fact, Bibi Netanyahu has openly said, we played cuts of it, we talked about it, with his recent presentation, that he believes the Iranians have a secret nuclear weapons program, that they have never dismantled that secret nuclear weapons program, and that he believes that the state of Israel cannot live with a nuclear-armed Iran. As Bibi has said again and again and again, this is a red line for the Israelis. The Saudis have also said this is a red line. And so the possibility now grows much closer that Israel and Saudi Arabia may together form an alliance and launch punishing airstrikes against some of these secret nuclear facilities in Iran. Iran has now vowed that they will strike back and strike back hard. In fact, as I speak to you now, there is a shadow war being waged in Syria between essentially Israel and Saudi Arabia on one side and Iran on the other side. In fact, Israel has now launched several devastating, ruthless missile strikes against Iranian fighters and Iranian weapons depots, and the Iranians are now trying to return fire as well. So what you clearly see happening is a proxy war is already being fought between Israel and Iran in Syria. This may go from a proxy war into an actual war. Furthermore, so I think clearly what you're going to see now, once we pull out of this deal, the pressure on Netanyahu, the pressure on the Saudis and the Gulf states is going to grow to do something against Iran's nuclear program. The question for us is this: by kicking out the Iran nuclear deal, does it lead us closer to war with Iran, which I think is not going to be in our interests? I don't think this is not going to be Iraq. This is not going to be Afghanistan. This is going to be a bloody major war in the Middle East. It's a war that we don't need. And frankly, it's a war that I don't believe this country will support. My feeling is that by knocking off this deal, we can reimpose maximum economic pressure on the Iranians, squeeze them and squeeze them and squeeze them, and then let the people overthrow the mullahs through an internal revolution. In fact, that's what we almost had when Obama was in power. If you remember the Green Revolution, when people all across Tehran, all across cities around that country rose up and they tried to overthrow the Islamo-Nazi regime, and Obama did nothing. He refused to give them any kind of verbal support, moral support, political support. If this thing happens again, if by reimposing economic sanctions and bringing the regime to its knees, and the people rise up again, I believe Trump is the anti-Obama. This time, he will not remain quiet. Like Solidarity, the way Reagan did with Solidarity, he will urge the Iranian Democrats, the Iranian anti-mullahs, those opposed to the regime. This time, he will say, America stands with you, we back you, you have our full political and moral support. And so the regime itself may collapse under its own weight. Let me just make one more final point. The mullahs are nervous. They are very, very nervous about this move by Trump, and I'll tell you why. Because for the last couple of years, because there has been more trade, more investment, more economic engagement with Iran by major Western powers, obviously us and the Europeans, Iran's standard of living has actually improved. In other words, the Iranian people have begun to see some of the benefits. There are more jobs. There are more businesses. There are more, I don't know, fast food restaurants, video games, apps, iPhones, whatever. They're starting to come into Iran, and the Iranians like them. The Iranians don't want to lose them. Once your appetite is whetted for a higher, better standard of living, for a better life, for you and your family, it's going to be very tough for the mullahs to put that genie back in the bottle. And so by us pulling out of this deal and by imposing maximum economic sanctions on Iran, crippling the Iranian economy again, we could actually now drive the Iranian people against the regime and finally overturn this evil, vile, odious Islamist fascist state. Listen now to President Trump in his own words, saying we will now reimpose economic sanctions and the United States is withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal. In essence, Obama's signature achievement, his foreign policy crown jewel, is dead. It's over. Roll it, Brittany.
My fellow Americans, today I want to update the world on our efforts to prevent Iran from acquiring a nuclear weapon. The Iranian regime is the leading state sponsor of terror. It exports dangerous missiles, fuels conflicts across the Middle East, and supports terrorist proxies and militias such as Hezbollah, Hamas, the Taliban, and Al-Qaeda. Over the years, Iran and its proxies have bombed American embassies and military installations, murdered hundreds of American service members, and kidnapped, imprisoned, and tortured American citizens. The Iranian regime has funded its long reign of chaos and terror by plundering the wealth of its own people. No action taken by the regime has been more dangerous than its pursuit of nuclear weapons and the means of delivering them.
As Trump put it, we are now withdrawing from the nuclear deal. He goes, I cannot accept a world where the Iranians could potentially impose nuclear blackmail upon us. The deal is now dead. Obama's key foreign policy achievement has now been erased. Do you support the Iran nuclear deal? Do you support Trump's decision to pull out of it? Good move, bad move, your calls next. Okay, my friends, in one of the most important and consequential decisions of Trump's presidency, he now has pulled the trigger. He has announced officially the United States is pulling out, withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal. And the Kelly Financial Services poll question of the day: do you support President Trump's decision to pull out of the deal? I want to hear from you. Lines are loaded. Donna in Georgia, you're up next. Go ahead, Donna.
Hey, welcome back, you Aruba baby. I hope you had fun.
Donna, how are you?
I'm good, honey. I miss you guys a lot. Oh, my gosh. But listen, first, it was an executive action by Obama, so he knew any future president could undo it. I think Trump has to. There's two people that stink to high heaven in this thing. Hillary gave Russia 20% of our uranium. I just read Russia's already helping Iran to build another nuclear site. The ground is cleared. They have to stop that, and I'm wondering if any of our uranium is being used on that. And if it's not, it could be used on something else so that other uranium could be used on this. Second person is Kerry. On the Logan Act, it says that any citizen of the U.S. without our authority, directly or indirectly, carrying on any correspondence with any foreign government with the intent to influence the measures or conduct of any foreign government in relation to any dispute or controversy with the U.S. or to defeat the measures shall be fined or imprisoned, not more than 3 years or both. Almost any communication between a U.S. citizen and a foreign government is considered an attempt to influence the negotiations. Mike Flynn did none of that. John Kerry is doing exactly that, and he is no longer the Secretary of State. Why isn't he being charged with the Logan Act, and why isn't Hillary Clinton going to prison too?
Amen. Don, I couldn't have said it better myself. Look, the person who's very depressed right now is not just Barack Hussein Obama, because his signature foreign policy achievement just went up in smoke. But Jean-Francois Kerry must be crying, because there he was negotiating behind Trump's back, personally with Iran's foreign minister, meeting him on multiple occasions to work against the Trump administration, against our government, and against U.S. interests. So not only now is the deal dead, but in all seriousness, Jean-Francois should be in prison. Trump has said he will not allow Iran to hold America hostage. He will not allow them to blackmail us with their nuclear weapons. That's why he's going to pull out of this deal. Good move, bad move. Your reaction after this short news break. Okay, it's now official. President Trump is pulling the United States out of the Iran deal. Evan Heidenrich is in the RKO newsroom with those details. Take it away, Evan.
Thank you for listening to the show on Really Big Something Channel.
2:35 here on the great WRKO. Okay, my friends, it is now official. Trump nukes the Iran deal. It is now dead. The United States has pulled out. In fact, within a couple of hours, we are going to reimpose crippling economic sanctions on Iran. The mullahs are already vowing that there will be quote unquote problems and quote unquote retaliation. In Jerusalem, in Israel, in Saudi Arabia, among the Gulf states, they are now openly celebrating. They have been wanting this now for a very long time. In fact, Jerusalem is now to name a city square in Trump's honor. These are now very fateful days in the Middle East. The question now is, what will Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf states do? Will they now launch missile and airstrikes on Iran's secret nuclear facilities? Will this decision lead us closer to war? 617-266-6868. Okay, listen now to President Trump say this deal was unacceptable. It held us to nuclear blackmail. It empowered the mullahs. It encouraged them and gave them the means to finance terrorism. And in the end, it was a bad deal where the Iranians got everything and we got nothing. Roll it, Brittany.
The Iran deal is defective at its core. If we do nothing, we know exactly what will happen. In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. In a few moments, I will sign a presidential memorandum to begin reinstating U.S. nuclear sanctions on the Iranian regime. We will be instituting the highest level of economic sanction. Any nation that helps Iran in its quest for nuclear weapons could also be strongly sanctioned by the United States. America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail.
The Israeli army, this is now breaking right now, the Jerusalem Post, Haaretz, which is really the most influential paper in Israel. They are all now reporting that the Israeli army, Bibi Netanyahu, has now ordered them to be on high alert. So clearly now, tensions between Israel, Saudi Arabia, the Gulf states, and Iran are now getting higher and higher and higher. All eyes will now be on Bibi, the Saudis, and the mullahs. What will happen next? 617-266-6868. Jeff in North Andover, you're up next. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Hey, Jeff.
Hi.
Love your show. I love listening to you, and I
Thank
think
you.
you're doing great service.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff.
I'm gonna make a bunch of points, and
Yes.
then I'll hang up so
Yes.
you can talk about them. The first thing, John Kerry should be tried for treason. I just think it's ridiculous. His whole history of what he's done is just indicative of where he's going. The other thing is, Iran cannot be trusted. I've texted you before. I've called him before. My father worked for the government. He did top secret. He did above top secret stuff. He kept this country safe for many years. I mean, 40 years doing it. I find it an insult of what these people are doing to this country by doing this. And honestly, I think Trump should get on the phone and say, you know what? I'm going to make your country a parking lot unless you do this. At some point, you have to say, I'm the biggest guy on the playground, and I'm going to tell you what to do. And just put an end to it, because this whole new world order crap has to go. I'm going to hang up now and then just listen, okay?
Jeff, thank you very much for that call. Look, here's my position. You may agree or disagree. This is one of the last free speech zones left in America. I think it was a bad deal. I opposed the deal the moment it was signed. I think it's a very bad deal. So I clearly see why the president pulled out. There's no question about it. On the other hand, I do not want a war with Iran. And I'll tell you why. Not that I fear the mullahs, not that I don't think God forbid, if we ever went to war, we couldn't beat them. Of course we could. But I'm looking at Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen. We have been in endless wars in the Middle East now for the last almost 20 years. Our country is $21 trillion in debt. We're badly overextended. We've got boys that are dying to this day in Afghanistan and all over the Middle East. Iran is not Iraq. It has 70 million people. It has one of the largest militaries and navies in the world. They've got terrorists all across the Middle East. I know they have terrorists that have infiltrated our country. If we go to war with Iran, we are going to pay a heavy price. I'm not saying we're going to lose. Of course, we're not going to lose. But we're going to see a very heavy price. And honestly, I see so many of these vets. I do so many events and charities for them. I don't want to get into it. It's something I do privately on my own time. But I see so many of them with missing limbs, missing arms, missing legs. I've had it. I've had it with war. I'll be honest with you. Look, I know we're the superpower of the world. This is a huge move on the part of Trump. But the ball is not in our court. Believe it or not, after this move, the ball is not on our court. The ball is essentially in two countries' courts right now. It's in Iran's court. What are they going to do? And it's in Israel's court, along obviously with Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states. Now, Netanyahu, all the news is now on Trump, and I understand. But Netanyahu just held his own press conference in Jerusalem. Now, what did Netanyahu say? Because that's the key one. That's the key guy right now. Netanyahu came out and said, quote, Iran will never get the nuclear bomb. Let me repeat that. Bibi Netanyahu said, quote, Iran will never get the nuclear bomb. Now, what that's saying to me is that what Bibi is saying essentially is Trump is now out of the nuclear deal, or the U.S. is now out of the nuclear deal. Economic sanctions are being slapped on again with the mullahs. And essentially now I see this as a wink, wink, as a green light for the IDF to now take out Iran's nuclear facilities. In other words, don't be surprised if Iran, with maybe covert support, clandestine support from the Saudis, maybe the Saudis will let them use their airspace, whatever it is, the Saudis may give them financial assistance, but don't be surprised if Israel, with the tacit backing of Saudi Arabia and the Gulf states, now makes a heavy move and starts bombing the living daylights out of Iran's key installations. And the Iranians will reciprocate. They will retaliate. They have Hezbollah now loaded, waiting to attack Israel from Lebanon. They have Shiite terrorists in Syria amassing at the border with Israel. And it's breaking right now the Golan Heights, which is in northern Israel, right, which Syria claims. They're now getting ready and they're opening shelters, bomb shelters. So the Israelis are now putting their army on high alert. So what you're seeing now is a potential war, maybe, we'll see the next couple days, between Israel, Saudi Arabia versus Iran. Now, to Bibi Netanyahu, if you believe Iran is a mortal threat to your country, shalom. I really mean that. Shalom. God be with you. You want to take out Iran, you got my blessings. But I don't believe the United States should get involved in this war. This is ultimately up to Israel and the neighbors of Iran. If they think Iran is such a menace, they should take care of the Iranian problem. That's my position. Linda in Medford, you're up next. Go ahead, Linda.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. I wanted to point out that Iran has increased its military budget since the signing of this awful contract.
Yes, by 40%, Linda.
40%.
40%, almost 50%.
Correct. And the other thing is, as far as our allies trying to dissuade the USA from getting out of this deal, France, I believe, has a contract with Iran to build 4 Airbuses. So they're looking at this from the point of well-being to their countries, and the jobs Iran has been willing to dole out, or the monies, for imports. And I think that has a lot to do with why they do not give us their support.
Bingo. Linda, I agree with you. Look, the Iranians pocketed all the money we gave them in that deal, and they used it not to spend on their economy or on healthcare or roads or social services, as Obama and Jean-Francois Kerry claimed. We know now for a fact their military budget exploded. So they were using the money to arm and fund terrorists all over the Middle East. By the way, the Taliban and Al-Qaeda in places like Afghanistan, which they used to kill our troops. So that was American Obama blood money that was used by the mullahs to kill our troops. That's point number one. Point number two, the Europeans have been doing a ton of business with the Iranians. They're making money hand over fist. That's why they're against this deal, because they want to keep the profits coming. So what Trump has now done is he's now essentially put the mullahs on notice. You keep shooting your mouth off how you're going to annihilate Israel, watch what you say. Because you think you got a military, Bibi's got a military. And unlike you, he's not all talk and no action. 617-266-6868. Ricky in Medford. You're up next. Go ahead, Ricky.
Hello.
Hi, Ricky.
Hi. First-time caller, long-time listener.
Welcome, Ricky. You're among friends. Welcome.
Wonderful. So, first, I'd like to do a plug. I'm a member of the Tough Republican Club.
Okay.
Currently on our highly liberal campus, you know, it's hard to voice our opinions.
You're a courageous man. You're a very courageous man, Ricky.
Thank you, sir. So, regarding Iran, I think we need to look at the history a little bit. In the 1950s, they had a government that we supported. In the late 70s, well, unfortunately, the Islamic Revolution came about. And that's kind of where things took a turning point. And I think we need to look at it through that lens. Iran has always served as a counter to our friends in Israel and to the Gulf states, who I personally don't support their approach, but they provide insurmountable resources to our country. And so I think the question is, what can we do politically? How can we foster a political change in Iran to get this, to change this? I think there's one thing we can learn from Iran, sir, and that is Sharia law. All these women are going out alone at night, and it's it's taking its toll on our people. And I think their form of Sharia law is faulty, but ultimately it has its merits.
Ricky, I don't understand that last point, but thank you for that call, Ricky. Look, I would just say this about the Iranians. Iran's population, Ricky, is very young. They have one of these in the world. They're like you. They're under 30. They despise the mullahs. The Iranian people hate the regime. And so what I think is going to happen, I think this is Trump's ultimate strategy, and I think it's brilliant. Pull out of the deal, reimpose the sanctions, these crippling sanctions, squeeze the Iranians economically. Remember, the Iranians were literally on the ropes before Kerry and Obama threw them a lifeline. In 2014, 2015, that regime was in big trouble. And so what Trump is basically saying is, no. We're going to reimpose tough sanctions. We're going to make the Iranian mullahs, just squeal and squeeze them and squeeze them and squeeze them. And then the people who are already sick of them are going to turn against them. And so I think what Trump is doing is he's basically saying it worked in North Korea. I think it's going to work now with Iran. Put maximum economic and diplomatic pressure. Netanyahu is now threatening to bomb them, and so contain and pressure the regime that eventually it's going to pop from the inside. If he can break the mullahs and bring them down, he will have reversed the greatest mistake of the Carter administration, which was the Islamic Republic coming to power in 1979. So what Trump is essentially saying is, let's go back to what it was a couple years ago. Sanctions were working, pressure was working, the mullahs were crumbling, and we let them off the hook. The question now is, what will Bibi do? Will Bibi wait for the sanctions to kick in and bite? Or will Bibi move while he's still got the time to move? That's why I'm telling you, all eyes are going to be on the Middle East the next couple days. And the question is, will Israel bomb or will Israel not bomb? 617-266-6868. More with your calls. Next. Anthony in Michigan. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Dr. Cooner, thank you. Hey, buddy, you stole my thunder. I was going to mention Jimmy Carter. Can you imagine what he will think that President Trump will undo his madness? Oh, my gosh. Hey, what I really think is going on here, Trump split up the allies. He went after North Korea, and who were they developing nukes with? Iran. Now Iran's by themselves. And Europe are stupid. They don't have to buy their oil from Iran. Israelis developing their own. They could sell it to them. We could sell it to them. Macron and Merkel, they don't have to be beholden to the Iranians. What I really think is going on here with a lot of the stuff that's been going on north of Israel and the stuff that's been going on in the last year or so with Syria, even the Moab bombing out in Pakistan, we're trying to wipe out all the Iranian knuckleheads so that there can be a peace deal between the Palestinian Authority and Israel. Jeff, I'm going to make a long-range prediction. Everybody thought I was nuts when I told him Trump would win and take Michigan. I think he's going for 2 peace deals this year, not only with the Norks, but between Israeli and the Palestinian Authority. I'm really bullish about this.
Interesting. Very interesting. Thank you for that call, Anthony. Russ in Boston, you're up next. Thanks for holding, Russ, and welcome.
Jeff, I support the president 100%. I'm happy to see Saudi Arabia and Israel join forces, ready to take out the nuclear threat if necessary. Now, unfortunately, with the European countries and other countries around the globe still trading with Iran, and the fact that they were given billions, it'll take too long to bring them down to their knees to support an overthrow of the government. So I believe that Israel is going to have to take action before this because there's just not going to be enough time left. But just remember one thing.
Yes. We're
responsible for what's going on in Iran because of the stupidity of Jimmy Carter, the American press, and all the other idiots in this country, and even the feminazis. But when the Shah of Iran supported women voting in Iran, and the Ayatollah said, not going to happen, and that's when it all started with the Ayatollah, is that where were the feminazis then supporting the Shah of Iran?
Russ, I've only got 30 seconds left, but I want to ask you this. Do you think it's a problem for Trump that the Europeans are opposed to him on this?
It's a problem because they're going to keep, the greed is a cruel master, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to keep supporting them by trading with them, and that's the problem.
Russ, thank you for that call. Okay, my friends, we'll have a lot more tomorrow. Pat Buchanan will be on to give us his view at 1:05 tomorrow. I gotta go. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, and together we're cleaning up the liberal bull.